This is a story about self-preservation. Sometimes we live in a time where we confuse advocacy with our own self-preservation, our own self-needs and responsibilities and growth. I'm someone who believes that there's no one really coming to save us and that life challenges us at moments to make very hard decisions. This is the story of my grandfather's ship going down during World War II. And obviously he survived, or I wouldn't be here. All right, y'all, welcome to the show. So we are starting a throwback series. We've been doing the show for so long. I can't believe how many years now. And what I'm realizing is that many of you who are newer listeners aren't familiar with the stories that I shared about who I am, where I've come from, how I've gotten all the way to here on this microphone to share myself, to spend so much time with you trying to impart what I think of as really hard-earned wisdom. You know, this life is not an easy one. If we are alive, there is a certain amount of struggling. I have a lot of stoicism in me, a lot of stoic principles that I believe in and teach from. I think believing that humans are more delicate than they really are is a detrimental message. I think giving someone too much safety in modern time gives them the impression that life is supposed to be easy. And I think that epically backfires. It creates a lot of apathy. It creates a lot of giving up before you're started. I hope what this episode provides is I want to inspire you to do some reflecting. I had no idea when I started Emotional Badass that it would become like a record of me. I had this forward intention of I'm going to put this out into the universe and it's going to connect with the people who need it and want it and are able and willing to receive it. And it has all across the world beyond my wildest imagination. What I didn't realize is, oh my goodness, if I did this enough years in a row, I would be creating this breadth of work. And it wouldn't just be my work and what inspires me and nuggets of wisdom and what truly deeply heals the human condition. It's also it's a record of me growing up. I'll be an old lady and be able to come back to this and go, wow, remember who I was? Remember where I was back then? Highly sensitive people. There's no way you're not highly sensitive if you are into my show. Other people may visit and be a visitor to my show who aren't. But if you light up the way that I talk and go, oh my gosh, she makes sense to me, then you are a highly sensitive person. And what I know about us, is that we are very focused on looking forward. Most of us feel behind. Most of us expect a lot out of ourselves, and we want to be further than where we are. We have to work with those things so that those things don't wear us out, depress us, and make us anxious, which brings a lot of dissatisfaction to all of our present moments. And that's what highly sensitive people work on. So I hope that these throwback episodes, they're not just for me to reflect. I hope that they inspire you to take a moment to stop where you are, all that you work on, all that you carry with you that you know still needs attention, your physical to-do list, your emotional healing to-do list. And you stop and you look back and you let yourself positively reflect on how far you have come. Take a moment with me to take a breath. Let that part of you that goes, yeah, but I should be over here. Let that part go. And take a moment with me to go, wow, how much more do I know right now than 5 years ago, than 10 years ago? What have I figured out that I just did not know when I was younger? Take a moment to take that in, to notice your progress. This is part of how we support ourselves. It's part of how we shore ourselves up. It's part of how we stop surviving and thriving, believe it or not. We can't thrive if we're constantly chasing down where we think we should be because we feel behind. That's a certain amount of desperation that kicks off our emotional system to feel like we are actually surviving something instead of, hey, I'm living this life. All of its obstacles, all of the mistakes that have been necessary for me to learn that I had to make, everything that I've overcome, on the inside of me, everything I've had to navigate on this outside world that I have very little control over, take a moment to celebrate you. This is part of holding yourself. It's part of respecting your struggle. It's part of respecting, honoring, and enjoying your wins and your gains because you have them. And if it's hard for you to feel them, then I think you need this as an emotional strength training practice more, not less. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's a flashback of how far I've come. It's also me sharing about my grandpa. What I hear when I listen to this episode is I hear the nervousness still in my voice. I'm such a loyal person. I've done an episode recently on loyalty and highly sensitive people that I can hear it in my voice and in my energy that I still felt a little sheepish, even though my grandparents have been dead for many years, that I'm maybe exposing them or publicizing them. For me, that's a lesson in none of our choices are perfect. None of our choices are pure. I can feel myself back then weighing out what is the benefit if I share this because I think it and I believe it? What is the benefit if I don't? And I just keep it to me and my close people and my heart. And it's my own tenderness with my grandpa, who's really my functional father. So I can see my growth in that I have so much more comfort in sharing me. Y'all, I'm still a super introvert, despite how this looks and seems, despite what I put out on social media that really stretches my growth edge, just because I want to connect with more of you, just because this is how I have grown my business and wanted to guide my life. This allows me to work from home, which helps me take care of my nervous system in the ways that I wasn't able to when I was younger. This is a story about self-preservation. Sometimes we live in a time where we confuse advocacy with our own self-preservation, our own self-needs and responsibilities and growth. I'm someone who believes that there's no one really coming to save us and that life challenges us at moments to make very hard decisions. This is the story of my grandfather's ship going down during World War II. And obviously he survived, or I wouldn't be here. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for keeping my grandparents alive with me. Light and love. And on to the show.
When I think about my grandfather, in my head to other people, I introduce him the way that Daenerys, Mother of Dragons, is introduced on Game of Thrones. I think of him as the original highly sensitive person because I believe he was in my life. He was such a gentle soul who would cry when his baseball players that he loved passed away. He would sit in the garden and grow cotton for me to show me that cotton could grow. He would grow peanuts when we were little kids to show us that peanuts grew from the ground, and big giant dinner plate size sunflowers. He dug out a pond in his backyard before that was a chic, cool thing to do. He would build his own birdhouses and he would fight the squirrels away from the birdhouses that he built. So I have this image of living in the city, but having this very wondrous nature experience in his backyard. So I attribute my sense of wonder and my ability to have multifaceted perspectives, which really helps me in my work. So my grandpa was everything to me in this way. And one of his stories that I started hearing as a pretty young girl, I think started my work in codependency before I ever even knew what that word was. And I know a lot of sensitive people struggle with that word because we have to hold multiple truths there. It's true for me, and I know it's true for so many of you, that I am fiercely independent in spirit and in mind and in how I walk through the world. So hearing codependent is a really annoying, aggravating, uncomfortable thing when we have this image of ourselves as being so independent. So if that's a new word for you, I think by the end of this story, it'll make sense. It'll be defined even without being defined. My grandpa served in the Navy during World War II. He was aboard the ship, the USS Lansdale. I think that's how you say it. I have Excuse me, military people, as I botch kind of military terms. He was in the Mediterranean Sea a few years after Pearl Harbor, and his ship was escorting other ships. And right as nightfall came in on April 20th, 1944, German torpedoes came down and fired on the ship. Now, my grandpa was a character. He was the kind of man that could move his lips in crazy ways to make you laugh. His brother, Uncle Todd, would pull quarters out from my ear. So this was a very magical light being. It was really hard for me to picture him in a battle. He said he was deep down in the center of the ship because he was a radio guy. So I think my grandpa would have gotten a really big kick out of me being on this newfangled podcasting digital radio thing. The Lansdale split in half and sunk 20 minutes after it was first shot at. That's really, really quickly. So his story to me was that bombs started hitting. He had to announce it over the ship. And a few minutes in, the captain declared that the ship needed to be abandoned. And so that was his job, and he announced it. And then you have to get to abandoning the ship, I guess, in that scenario. And he said it's smoky and it's dark. The Germans were dropping flares to be able to see the ships, to be able to accurately attack. So the lighting was eerie and smoky, and it's hard to breathe, and people are running and abandoning ship. And my grandpa said that every Navyman back then had an inner tube that wasn't inflated as part of the uniform, so that if you had to abandon ship, you already had your life preserver. And it was just this little dooley hick where you pulled with one hand on a string, sort of like we think of a parachute, and then it was supposed to blow up. So my grandpa abandoned ship, jumps in the water. He said he couldn't see his hand in front of his face because of the darkness and the smoke. And he goes to pull the cord to make his safety device inflate, and the cord rips and it doesn't inflate. And my grandpa would laugh telling this story. Like, of course, Murphy's Law. It didn't work. And he said the smoke cleared and they almost hit him because that's how poor visibility was. And he thought, yes, I'm being rescued. There's a little dinghy, buoy, whatever the rescue ship is called. And that man shook his hand and said, no, man, we're full. My grandpa laughed again, just like it was so funny. But that man he said, what do you need? And he saw that he needed a life preserver. So he gave my grandfather the life preserver off of his own neck to replace his broken preserver. Now, my grandpa said, what's your name, man? And found out his name. I don't remember his name. I wish I did. My grandpa said he always remembered that name because that man saved him. And so my grandpa had to watch that boat float away from him as he floated in the sea. Now, instinct in a scenario like that is to group up, to swim towards each other, strength in numbers. Grandpa said people were screaming, they were making sounds in agony, people were injured, people were scared, people were panicking. Men were scattered in the sea. When a ship goes down, when a big object goes down into the water, I don't know the proper term for the force, but you can be sucked down as the ship is sucked down with the currents. And that ship fell fast, it fell quickly, it sunk. So the Navymen knew they had to hit the water and swim far away from the boat to not be sucked down. So the men were really scattered. My grandpa swam up to a group of guys and started realizing, as there were injuries and blood in the water, that sharks were coming. And in that moment, my grandfather, I believe from his high sensitivity and his intuition, something said, look, pay attention. And in that moment, he decided and knew that he had to float it alone. As other men panicked, he said you could hear them climbing on each other, accidentally drowning each other, panicking as the sharks came, flailing, only attracting more. So to survive, he had to make the decision to swim away when the human instinct is to latch on. As I've counseled and coached people on codependency over the years, I've shared that story. The truth of that story couldn't be bigger for me, that had he made a different decision, I might not be here. And how despite huge, big, overwhelming body fears and instincts to latch on to each other, he somehow had the wisdom to self-preserve. I think so much of our self-preservation in this life is a heart-wrenching decision like that, where part of our mind, part of our body, part of our spirit really feels compelled to latch on, and another part knows the wisest thing I can do is let go. And it's in that space, that uncomfortable moment, that something grows within us, something that says we must self-preserve if we want to survive. And the story of my sweet grandpa is a really extreme story. And I doubt any of you are going to be in a ship that's going to be shot down anytime soon or ever. But we're all facing these decisions, whether it's working for a company that is sucking the life out of you, whether it's hanging on to a relationship that you know has really run its course. Maybe it's holding on to a memory of a person that you've lost to death or other circumstances. It's blocking you from letting go and moving on. Maybe it's having boundaries in your world with yourself about drinking too much wine, or maybe it's dabbling in drugs. Maybe it's giving your life away to video games. Maybe it's caretaking other people to the detriment of your life and dreams. Whatever your struggles are, that spot, that uncomfortable space that we don't want to be in, being forced to make those decisions, that's where we grow. So if my grandpa can do it in the water, maybe we can do it today, this week. Keep practicing it over our lives, and we can do it daily. We make the hard decisions that we need to take care of ourselves, to self-preserve, to survive, and then to learn how to thrive. Thanks for listening to the show today. Thanks for helping me honor the memory of my grandfather who served a fathering role in my life. Thanks for working on yourself and being the change that the world needs. We've hit some really big milestones on the show. Y'all have been my marketing team. Thank you for downloading it. Thank you for sharing it with your communities, your friends, your family, your support groups, your therapy groups. I haven't been able to keep up with all the messages, but I'm reading them. I'm hearing them. They matter. Thank you. If you'd like to support the show, one of the best ways that you can do that is with a 5-star review that helps us on the business side of podcasting. It's incredibly important. It helps other people find the show. So if you like what we're doing and you're feeling that 5-star review in your heart, please get on iTunes and support the show in that way. That is a huge help. If you would like to be considered as a producer of the show and participate in contents behind the scenes. What else do we have on Patreon? Let's see. We have monthly Q&As and exclusive episodes. So if you sign on for Patreon to support the show right now, you get all of that content that's already been there and that we keep adding to every single month. So thank you for being there. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for being out there in your world. I appreciate you. I am overflowing with gratitude, as you can hear. Keep working on those codependent issues. Life gets easier and lighter as you do. And we really deserve the best loving soul care from ourselves to ourselves. I hope sharing my grandpa today helped you connect how important it is to give yourself the permission to do what you need in life, even when that's really, really heart-wrenching.
The Boundaries Intensive is now open. To learn more or sign up, come to emotionalbadass.com/boundaries to secure your spot. We have a special offer for those of you who are interested in spending time with me in my Boundaries Intensive in October. We will re-engineer everything you thought you knew about boundaries so that you can actually have really effective boundaries. I know that you're puzzled about why your boundaries don't seem to work, why it's so tricky and confusing. And I know that you want to be able to do boundaries really well. I love being able to clarify, simplify, and teach you how to do that. So if you want that, Early Badass is the coupon code. Use that coupon code to save $100 off the full price of the course, or you can choose some payment plans. Me and my team, we work really hard to make this as accessible as possible to anybody who wants this work. We send you light and love. Early Badass. That code is available until August 13th. And the Boundaries Intensive with me teaching live with you as a participant starts this October. Come to emotionalbadass.com/boundaries. Light and love. I want peace and ease, satisfaction for you to feel lovely, calm, centered in the present moment. No matter what your early life has been like, I promise you that's available to you. So thank y'all for tuning in to this special throwback episode with my sweet grandpa. Light and love. I'm an emotional badass. You're an emotional badass. And together with grandpa too, we are where moxie meets mindful. Take care of yourselves out there. And I'll see y'all next week right here, or maybe in the Patreon. Till then, bye-bye.